Jill, how are you?
I'm doing really well this morning. What about you, Libby?
I'm good. It was so fun that we got to be on campus last night and spending some time with students. So today we're talking about internships, and we are going to enter internship season very, very soon. I can't believe it. We're shifting from go get the internship, now you've got the internship, and now we're starting. So today we're talking about why great interns don't always get the return offer. So quickly, who we are. My name is Libby Magliolo. I teach folks how to build better presentations. I'm an adjunct professor at SMU as well, teaching students how to build presentations that they can deliver in the executive realm. Jill, tell us who you are.
Yes, so this is how we know each other. I also teach at SMU Cox. And previously, I was assistant dean in the MBA program. So always excited to talk about different things that our MBAs are doing, which includes the internship, like you said, is coming up for most people in about 2 months, less than 2 months, starting their summer internship.
It's crazy. So I remember when I was in MBA, I remember showing up for orientation. This was early August, and I wasn't going to start an internship for 9 months. And I remember already feeling behind in my internship search. So from your perspective in the admissions realm and working with students so closely, talk to me about the pressure to get the internship, and talk to me what that is like for students and why we push them so hard to get the internship.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting, the trends of just how competitive it is getting. So like you, when I did my MBA, I can think of maybe one or two peers that already had internships lined up when they started the MBA. Now, this was about 20 years ago, but it was rare for somebody to have an internship already lined up going into the MBA. Now, we see more and more companies are recruiting over that summer leading up into starting your MBA. So before you've ever set foot on campus, before you've even gone through orientation, you haven't even paid your tuition bill yet, you could be getting an offer. And a lot of it is driven by large corporations that are racing to get to talent earlier and earlier. And then also there's a lot of other organizations that are helping to bring MBA candidates in front of corporations. So thinking of Forte Foundation, for example, or Consortium. So they're working with students with specific demographics and helping them get earlier and earlier exposure, which I think is great. But it also puts so much pressure on the student to start recruiting, start making those decisions, again, before they've even set foot on campus, before they've even taken a class. So for students that might be a little bit undecided about what type of internship they want, or do they want to do an internship in finance, or maybe they want to do a leadership development program, for example, they have to start making those decisions really, really early. And it continues to accelerate. And most business schools are working with their incoming MBAs. So I'm talking specifically now about full-time MBAs. Most of the programs are working with those students over the summer on things like getting their resume up to standard, their elevator pitch, and doing some of that early interview prep. Now, if you are a student that is starting an MBA program in the fall and you don't do any recruiting activities over the summer, you might think, okay, I got time. You don't, because during orientation, the other thing that's happening is business schools are bringing in companies to be networking with you, pitching their internships. And so again, before you've ever set foot on campus, literally day one, you are interacting with companies that will determine your future, not only your internship, but what that full-time role is and really where your career trajectory is. So nice. It is a stressful time for students. It's an exciting time, but it is something that you definitely don't want to sleep on. You want to make sure that you're giving yourself time to prepare for this process. You're asking good questions, but that you are already in that kind of game time set of mind going in.
Yes, I remember hearing that everything's an interview. The happy hour at orientation where there's alums there from a company who's hiring, that's an interview. Everything's an interview. So this sounds, also I remember in my first week of business school, I had to slink off to a dark corner and Google both brand management as well as management consulting. Brand new. So I was not ready to be recruited into that without knowing what it was. So this sounds like an obvious question, but why is the internship so important? Why is it important for the student, for the school, for the company? Why do we put so much pressure on it?
It is students best way to showcase their skills, to get that experience, that real experience. Because even though it is an internship, you are doing work that you would be doing with a full-time offer after graduating. So you're gaining that experience. So thinking of it like an apprenticeship, you're building your resume, but you're also highlighting your skills to companies. Companies spend a lot of money recruiting interns, as I mentioned, over the summer, coming to campus, hosting events. So they are highly incentivized, corporations, to convert those offers, to make the internship a great experience, to use it as a way to understand the talent that's coming in, and then select from those interns who they want to make full-time offers with. So they're highly motivated. Students are obviously highly motivated. So there's a lot of pressure, I think, on both sides. And then, of course, schools want to make sure that their interns are succeeding, having good experiences, and then have that offer in hand at the end of the summer.
So everyone wants it to go well.
Everyone wants it. Even if you don't want to work at that company. Let's say, you're trying to decide between a career path in brand marketing versus product marketing, and you do your brand internship and you really don't like it that much. And you think, I really want to explore product marketing internships full time, or maybe I don't want to work in this industry. You still really want to get that offer.
Yeah.
Even if you're not going to accept it as your full-time offer, because you're going to be able to use that as leverage and negotiation power with the company you do want to work for. Because a lot of times the return offers that students are getting, you might get them immediately when you're finishing the internship in early August. You might get it in September or October, but usually you have a very lengthy decision time frame. And so you are able to interview with other companies during that time. And again, really use that as leverage. So even if you hate your internship, you want to get an offer from them because it signals to the market that you are employable, that people want you, you're a hot commodity, you have great skills. So again, no matter what that summer internship is like, you want to land that offer.
Yeah, and you want to leave on the best possible terms, because what I learned is your career, it's a very small world. You're going to run into all these people later, work with them, possibly need something from them. So you still want them to think that you're a complete rock star and you're amazing and that you can do the work. So we pressure students, intense pressure to get the internship, get it. But I remember, I don't know if you remember the scene in The Hunger Games when Katniss goes up in the tube. She's about to enter the Hunger Games. I remember feeling like that on the first day of my internship, okay, I got the internship, but now I'm here and I have to sit in a cubicle, and how often should I go talk to my boss, and how much is too much, and all of that. So you and I have done some research, and we had amazing response to our survey about what good interns look like in the workplace and what gets interns the return offer versus not. And you and I have talked about this as folks who regularly teach and spend time with students. When you're in school, I will not say that it is easy to succeed. I will say it's more linear to succeed. That here's your syllabus, do these assignments, here's the rubric, here's what good looks like, turn it in at this date. If you have questions, ask the TA. It's very linear. When we drop students into the internship corporate realm, it's no longer linear whatsoever. It's not that environment of, hey, here's exactly what I expect from you, and here's exactly what you need to be doing. It's so much more gray and unstructured. And you and I and every corporate person we know, we have learned a lot of things the hard way over our careers, but we're kind of expecting interns to know all of those things off the bat. So the first thing that we heard from our survey data was that 80% of interns said they needed guidance on knowing what good looked like. So what does that tell you? What does that say to you? That 4 out of 5 interns in our survey said they didn't really know what good looked like in their internship.
Absolutely. Obviously, these are really smart people. They're in a graduate program. They've accomplished a lot. They know how to do good work, but they know that the bar has been raised. They are being evaluated as an MBA candidate in a corporate setting. They've been evaluated as an MBA candidate in the classroom, and they've worked in corporate settings, nonprofit settings. They have a work track record, but never through this lens of, well, now you're an MBA. Now we're hiring you for a different skill set. And so it's really hard to understand what exactly goes into that. And of course, work product is really important. But interestingly, when we talk to managers, a lot of times we hear things like a B work product is okay.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm really looking for, when I really think of a good candidate, is somebody that's willing to learn, asks good questions, is understanding the business macro context. So not just the project they're working on, but they're asking good questions about the why, how does this fit in? They're listening. Mm-hmm. So they're not coming in guns blazing. Obviously they're offering their opinion, but they're doing it in a thoughtful way and they're learning from others. They're trustworthy. I can have them go to a meeting on my behalf and I know that they'll take good notes, contribute, be professional. I can put them in front. I can bring them to a client meeting or bring them with a client. And I know that they will approach that appropriately and be a good representation of me.
Right.
And a lot of these things are not things that we're taught in a classroom per se, but you have to be really thoughtful and observant of the culture around you and kind of test things out and find where that balance is.
Yeah, it's like we've talked about how it's like there's this unwritten rule book, and people who have been in the corporate world, it's like they've read the rule book, but you don't have access to the rule book yet. And so you're just kind of looking around and thinking, okay, he has his phone out in this meeting, but she doesn't. Do I need to put my phone away? Is this a good time for me to interject my opinion? Should I stay quiet? Should I take notes? Should I not? All these social norms in the workplace that no one has ever explicitly taught you, but interns are very much being judged on, which is a scary thought. So another tension that we picked up on in our survey is that interns said they would have benefited from more coaching and feedback along the way. But then what we heard from intern managers was my intern needed too much hand-holding and they needed too much feedback along the way. So how do we reconcile those two things, which are completely diametrically opposed to each other? So interns want and need more feedback and coaching, but intern managers are looking for a little bit more independence in managing up. So how do we reconcile those two things, which are completely opposite from each other?
Yeah, they're moving like this. There's this gap. Right. And it completely makes sense why this exists. And I think each side needs to give a little bit, right? So managers can probably provide more specific feedback, more thoughtful feedback, put themselves in the shoes of somebody who's new to the organization a little bit more. I know sometimes, and it obviously depends so much on your internship manager. Sometimes they might have a lot of time. Sometimes they might not. Maybe they're traveling or on vacation and they're gone for 2 weeks. And so there's a lot of variables there. But I think what really would help the individual intern is understanding where I should be asking for help and guidance. What are things that I can try and figure out on my own or go to other resources? Maybe asking some of my peers, maybe some of my career management coaches, where can I try and find this information? And then also, and I mean, this is a personal story that haunts me to my grave. It shouldn't, but I still get this awful feeling. When I was an intern, I had an incredible manager and I was very confused about my project. I was kind of halfway through through the internship. And I thought, oh God, I have no idea where to go or what to do or how, and I was really freaking out about it. And I don't exactly remember what I was talking to him about or what I was asking him, but I will never forget. He looked at me and he said, Jill, you are an MBA. I expect you to come to me with an answer, not asking me this level of questions. And it was an absolutely mortifying moment. But I needed to hear that because I had always been an individual contributor and somebody that was taking a lot of direction. So doing things that were more repetitive or more clear cut. And now I was in this very ambiguous role where I was driving and it made me feel really uncomfortable. But it made me realize, okay, this is a different type of job. Part of my job is to navigate this for myself. And so it was a really empowering moment. I mean, obviously I went to the bathroom and I cried and I poured myself a big glass of wine when I got home. And I just, I had that moment and I panicked. But it turned out to be really what I needed to hear in that moment. And it helped me understand and be much more thoughtful about when I went to my boss for help.
Right. And someone explained it to me, similarly, that when you take things to all the way up to the executives, all of the easy problems have been solved along the way. And so the problems and stories that get taken up to the executives are the really complicated, complex things. And that means that we expect folks to self-serve a little bit and be able to solve those problems on their own. And it's this delicate balance, because a thing that we heard in our survey is interns said over and over, I didn't want to bother anybody. I didn't want to be a bother. I didn't want to bug them. So we've got to figure out where that line is between, hey, my intern was at my desk every 15 minutes for 3 straight weeks asking questions, but we also just don't want to sit in our cubicle and think, I'm going to figure it out. I don't want to bother anybody, because managers are looking for that sweet spot in the middle of, I want you to try and do your best to self-serve. And if it's an easily Googleable question, then try that first. If you can ask a fellow intern, if you can ask somebody for this resource, look at your internal company resources, try and figure that out. But don't just sit there and spin forever. After you've done your very, very best to try and figure out the answer, then you can come to your manager and say, hey, I have this problem. I want to let you know what I have tried to solve this problem, but I am at a standstill and I need some guidance from you on where I should go next. So showing that ability to self-serve, but also showing the ability to manage up and ask for help as needed. It's a really delicate balance that we're asking interns to figure out, all within 8 to 10 weeks. So
yeah,
it's
and it makes me think too about that you need to really network and broaden who you're talking to, because a lot of times if you're working on a specific project, obviously your manager is really involved, but there's so many other people that you can learn from, get different perspectives. Maybe you can ask them more detailed questions, but since you're not really working as closely with them, you're not going to burn them out if you have one meeting with some detailed questions. But it also signals to your manager that you're willing to go talk to people. Again, you're not hiding in your cube, or you're not working from home, and only logging onto a Zoom when you need to, but you're approaching it. You're being part of the organization and you're being thoughtful. So I think there's lots of ways to continue to get more information and then come to your manager, at least alluding to the fact that you've tried to solve this on your own.
Right. And you even get a little bit of credit for the initiative that you took and the problem. So tell me more about that, because we do expect interns to network, but one of the things that you and I have talked about and we've talked about with students is you're oftentimes building professional relationships with people who are 20 to 30 years your senior, who have been at the company possibly longer than you've been alive. And that's a new thing for many students. When you're a student, you're amongst your peers. You have your professors who are older than you, but you're largely amongst your peers. Whereas when you're in the corporate world, you are thrown into a multi-generational workforce, and you are expected to work alongside people with vastly different backgrounds, ages, who are different than you. So why does that matter? As an intern, you're only going to be there for 10 weeks. So tell me why it matters that you go and seek out people from all across the company, and how you even do that. Because I know a common thought among interns is, this person is my dad's age. This person is my mom's age. I don't know how to build a relationship with somebody my parents' age. So why is it important? And how on earth do we start to build a relationship with someone where we don't even know where to start?
I think it's important for a couple of reasons. I mean, one, it's not just your manager that's determining if you're going to get an offer or not. Usually corporations have larger structured programs. They might have 5 spots in the division, for example. And so there are multiple hiring managers, multiple people's opinions who they are going to be asking. So it's important that everybody who's in that room knows who you are and is somewhat familiar with your capabilities, what you worked on in the summer. Of course, a lot of interns do a presentation at the end of their internship. So that's a high stakes opportunity to really showcase your work. But getting to know folks around the room will really help solidify your position within the organization, that you're somebody that is taking that extra step. We human beings, we are social beings. We, even if you're a supreme introvert, you do want that human connection. And we spend so much time at work that, of course, we want to work with people that are very good at their jobs, but also somebody that it's pleasant to be around, somebody that you can chit chat with for a few minutes, somebody that is interesting outside of a work perspective, right? Has a little bit of a personality. And so I think it's important to showcase those skills. And then also, so many leadership positions as your career progresses will involve interacting with more and more people that are different from you and outside of the organization. So showcasing that you can interact successfully with lots of different people is one of those more subtle, softer skills that companies are looking for.
In a huge way, because I think when many folks think about collaborating in a work setting, we think, well, we can work together and we can mesh our work product. When in reality, it's these things too. Can you go in and create a relationship with somebody? Because in my corporate days, I had to work with people from departments all across the company. And very oftentimes you need things from each other. I need some information. Oh, I need you to help me build a deck. And when you have those relationships already built, that becomes an easier working relationship. And I think it's also, like you alluded to, it's a litmus test for, oh, this person is okay on their own and they know how to take initiative and they're already building their network across the company and they're creating relationships. You and I have talked about this. Can you give me 2 or 3 of your favorite go-to small talk questions if I'm looking at someone and I just need a place to start up a conversation? Give me some go-to small talk questions that we tell students are a good idea to start with.
Yeah, so I love to read. I love to read fiction, but just asking somebody, what's something interesting that you've read? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a book. It can be, what's an article that you recently read? So I like to start there, because oftentimes people will bring in business things, so you can learn from that. Or sometimes they'll bring in something that they're just passionate about or interested about, and then you can connect with them a little bit on that hobby or something like that. So I like to start with what are you reading, or have you seen anything in the news interesting? And then it's also important to follow the news, I think, loosely. And I'm not talking politics right now. Let's leave politics to the side. But knowing a couple big things that are happening either in your city that you're interning in, the region, the world, whatever it might be. For example, one thing that I've brought up recently in the past couple of days conversation is the launch of the Artemis 2.
Yeah.
And it's a real feel good. I think everybody in the world is very excited that we've launched 4 astronauts now to circle the moon again, the first time in 50 years. And so it's a safe chatting point.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't know a lot about it, you could share your knowledge with them. If they do know a lot about it, you can talk about it. If it's somebody that's significantly older than you, they might reminisce about the last time that somebody landed on the moon. And so it's just a way to have that bonding moment where you have a shared interest. And sometimes you got to fake it a little bit. Sometimes you might have to pretend you're more interested in a topic than you naturally are. And I don't think that's being disingenuous. I think that's inviting the conversation. Because if you shut it off too early, the conversation's going to stall out. But if you kind of act a little bit more interested than you might be, then the conversation will continue. And then you can get to a point that you are more interested in. And then you're having a real genuine interaction.
And something you have said is treat it as, okay, this is a learning opportunity. This person said they went fishing all weekend. I don't know about fishing. I don't care about fishing even a little bit, but I can learn something about fishing. Oh, tell me what kind of fish you catch. Oh, where do you go to fish? Tell me more about that. And just follow-up questions. People love geeking out about their own hobbies, and you can learn something. I cannot tell you how many times that I've done this, and then I take my little nugget of information into the next meeting, and I'll say, do you guys know about all the fish in Texas? And because it's interesting, and now I've got my new talking point. So I agree. It's not being disingenuous. It's learning how to show interest in others and learning how to ask follow-up questions. and all that, which is an incredible life skill. We heard about interns. We heard the term professionalism and fit and following unwritten rules in the workplace. So some of those unwritten rules that come to mind for me are dressing appropriately. So learning how to dress like the folks who you are working with, whether that is jeans or, excuse me, business casual, or you wear suits every day, or if you're at a startup, something more casual. So learning how to dress appropriately. Phone etiquette is another one that we've heard a lot about. Being off your phone, putting that away, looking folks in the eye, or looking in the camera if you have an online meeting. AI etiquette is another one that we've heard a lot. We're hearing stories of interns when they're given a task, they basically dump that task right into ChatGPT, copy the response from ChatGPT and email it back to their manager. No proofreading, no anything. So all these things can be done well, or they can be done poorly. What else am I missing from kind of the unwritten rules in the workplace that managers are looking to interns? What else is there as far as professionalism and fit, and what are those unwritten rules?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to use the word fit because I know it can definitely lend itself to biases at play. But I think what managers are looking for are really for people that they trust to show up as their best self. Take this seriously, give it their all. And I think one thing to remember is that the bar is higher for an intern. So it's different if your manager is looking at their phone on a meeting than you looking at your phone in the meeting. Because of the duration and because they already got the job. You're in an interview situation. So you really have to kind of be on that best behavior. But other things that come to mind are just really understanding, I can't think of a better word, but like the gravitas of the situation. So, one story that I heard from like a mid-sized consulting company, when they said, what are the biggest issues they see, is it's really, they have a lot of fun in the summer, but then they're doing a lot of client-facing work. And the people that can't pivot from one to the other, they will not hire. So it's one thing if you're at a happy hour and you're chatting and you're having fun and you're doing some team bonding or out to lunch, but then as soon as you're in front of the client, you need to be able to match the client where they are. So if they're not joking around, you're not joking around. If they're dressed in professional dress, you're dressed in professional dress. So you really need to be mirroring that. So I think a lot of that really boils down to trust and people being able, or interns being able to read the room quickly and adjust.
Yes, absolutely.
Manage their surroundings. So kind of thinking of yourself as like a chameleon, that there's a time and a place for different things, but being able to match that. And as we're talking about the small talk thing, I remember back to my first full-time job was at 3M. So in the Midwest, I'm from Minneapolis, so it felt very comfortable to me. But every meeting there would start with like 5 minutes of how's the weather, either what did you do last weekend or what are you doing this weekend? It was just this chit chat. And it used to drive some of my coworkers who are not from the Midwest insane. Insane. Like a unimaginable amount of anger. And so they would refuse. They would just start the meeting and dive right in. And you could see
the discomfort.
The full-time people, I mean, they were like taken aback. You could just hear in their head, like, who is this, fast talker from the coast kind of person? And somebody wants to say, Jill, you're really good at this. Why? And I realized, it's because I'm from the Midwest, so I'll just chat. And so I see both sides of it. But it was really important that this was not a time and a place to put a stake in the ground and say, I'm going to eliminate the early meeting chit-chat.
No more small talk.
No, that was the wrong call. The right call was to just embrace it, participate, try and end it as quickly as you can, but just go with the flow. Go with the flow.
We want to work with people we know, like, and trust. And part of the way we get to know, like, and trust them is through the small talk and building relationships. So
talking about the weather.
Okay. Did you see the crash on the tollway today? It was crazy. Whatever it is. Okay. This was wonderful. And we have so much great data and wonderful insight into what interns are thinking, what intern managers are thinking. I'll mention at the end that Jill and I also have a very big interest in this because we have launched a program called the Return Offer Blueprint, because we know that students are pushed so hard to get the internship, but not really helped out what to do when they get there. So we have built a program that walks with interns every step of the way, starting before your internship, walking with you all the way through that ending final presentation with week by week guidance on here's what you need to do this week, here's what you need to learn this week, here is your homework this week, and exactly how to do that, like strike up those small talk conversations, as well as support for that end of internship presentation. We have 2 free webinars coming up in April that I posted the dates for. Well, we will dive in further depth to this and give you the game plan for your whole summer of how to turn that internship into a return offer. So we're so excited about this, and we're so excited to be able to support interns, because you work so hard for that internship, and we want to help you make sure that you turn it into a return offer, which will be the beginning of an amazing career. So check out those webinars, ask questions if you have any at all. Thank you so much for joining us today. Jill, thank you for this. This was wonderful.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thanks, Libby.
Wonderful. Talk to everybody later. Bye.
Bye.